About John Donovan Ministries. John Donovan Ministries and the Mosaic Collective is a metaphysical, spiritual organization. The organization focuses on awakening divine consciousness through metaphysical education, spiritual renewal, and community service. Our vision: to awaken divine consciousness in humanity through the living Word, spiritual renewal, and service, reflecting the mind of Christ in all aspects of life. Our mission: to cultivate a community grounded in metaphysical understanding of Scripture, spiritual empowerment, and holistic service to humanity. Our core values: divine consciousness, metaphysical understanding, spiritual empowerment, holistic service, financial integrity. The organization focuses on awakening divine consciousness through metaphysical education, spiritual renewal, and community service.
We now come to the seventh part in our Christ the Master Builder series, Waiting in the Stairwell. Waiting in the Stairwell. Our text today, our scripture text, will be taken from the book of Acts chapter 1, verse 4 through 14, and Luke 24, 49 through 53. In our theme, we see the stairwell as the in-between place where the builder tells us to wait before the next floor is released. It is the suspended space between ascension and Pentecost where obedience becomes preparation and silence becomes power. The upper room in Acts is the place the disciples returned to, devoted themselves to prayer, and waited together in unity before the Spirit came. And as we reflect on the text and the theme, we see some of the most sacred places in the house are not in the rooms where people celebrate. Some places are transitional. A stairwell is one of those places. It is a place between one floor and another. It is not where you stayed, and it is not where you are going. It is where you wait. And after the ascension, that is exactly where the disciples were. Jesus had told them to wait in Jerusalem for power from on high. So they returned to the upper room and they continued in prayer and supplication with one accord. This is not dissimilar to Noah, having never seen rain, was told to build an ark and to set a window up in the top and a door in the side and wait. And they built and they prepared. And then the rains came. It is not dissimilar to that circumstance. That means that the stairwell, it is not punishment. The stairwell is preparation. The master builder will not allow you to outrun your formation. I said it again. The master builder will not allow you to outrun your own formation. He knows that if you move before the structure is ready, the work will collapse under your own excitement. So he says, wait. Wait until prayer makes you steady. Wait until unity makes you strong. Wait until expectancy becomes holy. In just a few hours, the World Cup of soccer will be beginning here in the United States. And the thing about soccer is there's a sense of unity that happens. There are times when you want to strike the ball because you have it, you see the position, but then quite often, if you release the ball at the wrong moment and the opponent gets it and you're not set for the return attack, you end up losing. And so you have to maintain the formation. They have different formation, 2, 3, 3, 4, or whatever the system is. You have to make sure you're following the system because you are part of that system. Same thing with playing chess. I've been playing chess for most of my life. And this is why most folks get beaten, because they see an opportunity and think, oh, I can checkmate you. What they're not realizing that I've thought about that a long time ago. Whatever attacks you're about to bring to me, I have planned that if you do this, then I'm doing that. And when you do this, I do this because you're going to do that. So I maintain the formation. And sometimes you see an easy take and say, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and take it, not realizing you've been set up. So you wait and maintain the formation. Whatever the positional play you're playing, you play the pieces because in the end, it's going to play. There are multiple combinations that can come from each move in the chess game. But when you've played it enough and studied it enough, you know that when you do this, then that is what's going to happen. And so they waited. They waited. By way of introduction, let's look at the space between floors. There is a spiritual architecture to waiting. A stairwell is not a destination. And it's not the floor you left behind. It is a transitional space where you're held between one level and the next. After the ascension, Jesus told the disciples to wait in Jerusalem for power on high, and they returned to the upper room in a prayerful obedience. Metaphysically, this is a season when the master builder refuses to let us rush the process. The stairwell teaches us that delay is not denial. It is divine stages. So let's look at all the movement in the text. Number one, between promise and power. The disciples have seen the risen. Oh, hallelujah. Listen, the disciples not only have seen Christ before, but now they have seen the risen Christ and received additional instruction. And then they witnessed. Oh, come on, somebody, just see that. They witnessed the ascension, yet they're not ready to go public. They must wait for the promised Spirit. Metaphysically, this is the place where you know enough to obey, but not yet enough to perform. The word said, study to show yourself approved unto God, a workman that needed not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Quite often you want to just jump and say, you know what, I'm going to defend the faith. I'm going to be an apologist and I'm going to defend the faith. But sometimes you just have to step back and let it flow, and don't become engaged in every conversation, in every argument, in an attempt to defend the faith, because God can defend himself without you, because God lives in that individual who's trying to fight against the system, just like he did with Paul. And when the time comes, you will find yourself blinded on the road until you see only what God wants you to see. The stairwell is where maturity leads into restraint. I spoke about it in one of our other lessons last night, the difference between milk and solid foods. When you get to a point where you have matured in the word, not everything shakes you, because you're not just relying on instruction, but also intuition and discernment, discerning the times. And number two, movement number two, point number two, we see them returning to Jerusalem. The disciples returned from the Mount of Olives and gathered in the upper room in unity and prayer. They do not scatter into ambition. They return to the place of instruction and waiting. Some of us were, the moment we see Jesus, the moment we see Jesus and get the word, we start running with it and building church. Because we want to be apostles and prophets and preachers. But there's a process where, do you realize when the bee is making honey, there's a process it goes through. When you're making gold, there's a process you go through. When you're making lives, there's a process you go through. Relationships goes through a process. You may say it's possible for it to happen in an instant. Yes, it's possible, but not probable. The probability is that it won't happen that way. The probability is that you will need to learn. Metaphysically, this means that the next level is not reached by striving, but by returning to obedience. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is go back upstairs and wait with the others. It's not time to come down. It's time for you to stay upstairs and wait not by yourself, but wait with the others. Wait with faith, wait with patience, wait with joy, wait with expectation, wait with long suffering. They come. Movement number 3. One accord as structural alignment. Acts says they continued with one accord in prayer and supplication. One accord is more than emotional agreement. It is structural alignment. A building can only rise if its parts are leveled and joined correctly. As I've gotten older, I've understood why is it that quite often in the olden days, prayer was preceded by intense sessions of fasting. Because then when you fast, you empty yourself, your mind somehow get to a place of reliance on God. And so your prayer becomes different. And when you get into an all-night prayer meeting, there's a difference when you're prepared than when you just come into a meeting where somebody is just trying to say, okay, let's do 3 songs and the prayer, and then I'll teach you something. No, let God do the teaching. And I know that God lives in you. But the greatest thing we can do sometime, go upstairs and listen. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Take it to the Lord. Speak to Him. And then we see transformation. Unity is not decoration. It is load-bearing architecture. Quite often when you see a building that was utilized for a different purpose and now it's transformed into a church, and you see the columns into the buildings. Those columns at one point or other may have been the support structure for offices, but because the building has now been recommissioned, they now become load-bearing structures. And if you dare try to move them, the whole thing's come falling down. And so it is sometimes in our lives, there are some things that we have been taught, which essentially they are the load-bearing structures of our lives. And we can't give up on the principles which took us to where we are today. We would love to just run with the new thoughts and the ideas which have been placed in our minds. But it's important to remember foundation, because it's the foundations on which we stand. Movement number 4, waiting as preparation. The upper room becomes the place of preparation before the Pentecost movement. Waiting is not an activity. It is spiritual readiness under construction. And metaphysically, this is where the old noise is stripped away, so holy expectancy can form. It is kind of like when you're in rehearsal, and as you're rehearsing, you spend some time before you get the parts right, and you play and you sing and you teach and you listen and you rearrange. And then when you present the final production, sounds like heaven. The Stairwell teaches us that the next floor requires a quieter soul. To get to your next level, you get to a point where you don't talk much. You may be even in church and you don't shout like you used to, because it's now getting inside of you and really working and bubbling. But when the time comes, oh glory, hallelujah, when the people made a shout, the walls fell down 7 times without a stop. 7 times they walked around the walls of Jericho. But after a while, it fell because they prepared. They didn't make the shout until the seventh time, because they were preparing, and when they knew that it was ready, then came the shout. And so it is. Movement number 5, the power to remain. Jesus' command was not to run ahead, but to stay put until power arrived. Staying requires more faith than premature movement. Metaphysically, this is the courage to remain still when your spirit wants to force the door open. Have you ever watched a relay, especially my favorite Jamaican teams? And as the first sprinter gets off on the 100-meter, and they know they're all fast 100-meter runners, and the baton is passed, and they grab onto the baton, and they're going for the second sprint, and they're going through, and we see the runners there, and the runner is anxious, and they want to go because they know they have power, they have speed, and then the baton is passed, and then finally it came to, it may be Shelley and Favorite Pricer, one of the twins that is going to anchor it, or my favorite E.T. is going to anchor it, and so they're waiting, and whichever one of them is waiting, and they know they are fast as lightning, as we say, or lightning bolt, whoever it is, whether a male or female runner, but they know as fast as they are, they have to wait until the baton is passed, because if they run without the baton, they become disqualified. And when they finally receive the baton and run with it, and sometimes somebody else may get the baton first, but because they have the power, Jamaican teams outrun them in so many instances. But it took years of preparation and running up the hills and running and practicing and getting up early in the morning, waiting for the time when it's time to get on the world stage. Metaphysically, this is the courage to remain still when a spirit wants to force the door open. It's when you're in those moments and you're wondering, why? I'm ready. I'm prepared. And you're thinking to yourself, I'm going to die before I achieve what God has called me to do. But listen to what you just said. God called you. He knows when, how, and where. You see, quite often you're seeing things from your position on the chessboard. But you remember, it's just like in martial arts when you're doing kumite or katas or forms. You must realize that the opponent has been practicing as much as you have been practicing. The faith, fear, love, hate, they've been practicing the good as well as the opposite sides. I've been practicing and preparing. And so if you move out of position, you find out that you're checkmated, or you find out that you're disqualified. You find out that you made a move too quick. You saw the beautiful girl and you said, man, I want to have a conversation with her. But she's out with 5 of her girlfriends. That's the worst thing you could possibly do. Trying to take one female away from the 5. No. You just bypass and say hi to everyone. Hey, how are you guys doing? Oh, man. And have a brief conversation. You may even leave your numbers with everyone. Oh man, I work at XYZ place. My name is John. I'm with Norwegian Cruise Line. If you ever think of going on a cruise, I'd be happy to help you, get something set up. Have you ever been on a cruise before? No? Oh my goodness, it's like nothing. It's like your vacation. You're going on a vacation and you're taking your home with you. You don't have to be getting off and, running around. Everything is right there with you. If you want to get up at 1 o'clock in the morning, everything is ready, prepared for you. By the way, here's my phone number. You're not giving your phone number because you want to cruise. If you buy a cruise, that is cool. But your goal was to get the attention of that one person. And the first thing she goes, hey, you got a job. He's employed. Okay, that's a good start. He can talk. That's a good start. He can keep a conversation. He's not afraid. That's a good start. So you show your virtues. But you go in there trying to say, hey, how are you, sis? You're so beautiful. All the others are going like, so what about us? We're chicken feed. We're not beautiful too? You see where I'm coming from? You're complimenting because you have a goal. And the others may very well be married and not interested in you in the first place. But you trying to separate that one friend, especially if she's the only one single, David planning for her wedding all their lives. And you trying to separate them. It's not gonna work. Wait. Waiting applies in so many situations. You're making a cake and the recipe says 3 hours in the oven, whatever it says. I know somebody said, why can't a cake is 3 hours? Whatever. It could be a pudding, whatever it is. Or you're baking a pot roast, a shoulder, and it takes 12 hours of slow cooking. You decided, you know what, I'm gonna take it out of the oven. But in the case of the cake, you take it out too soon. What happened? Falls flat in the middle. It has the taste, but it doesn't have the formation and the texture because you couldn't wait. Waiting sometimes may seem like an unnecessary task. But I promise you, think of a woman having a baby, and within 3 weeks you say, doctor, I'm pregnant, okay? I'm ready now, can you take the baby out? No! You wait until it goes through the different cycles and you get kicked and you have to throw up and you get angry at your husband. You can no longer go to work. I know your beautiful figure look like a round ball. And you used to go to the gym and looking all nice and fine. Now you're looking like you just been blown up by a ball. And it's a good thing that is happening to you. But you're angry at your husband because, it's the hormones that is making you all these cycles and coming. And you're like, take it out. But it's not the right time because it's not all about you. You have the power to remain. You have the power to wait. So the builder tests whether you can wait before he lets you build. Moment number 6, living in the stairwell. You stop calling the in-between a season of failure. This is one of the biggest. You're looking at your family and friends, and they seem to be doing so well. But you, waiting. They have great jobs. They're on television. They're vacationing all over the place. You, waiting. You're like, God, when is my turn gonna come? I want to tell that some of the greatest individuals of our time started way up in their 60s. Oh my goodness, Abraham and Sarah. Had they waited, some of the challenges that we're having in the world today wouldn't have happened because 2 cousins are fighting right now. But Sarah, trying to appeal to her husband, appease her husband, says, you know what? Go sleep with the housekeeper. And they had a baby. I don't know if this is a Jamaican saying, but we used to say, don't trouble trouble till trouble trouble you. What do you have to lose? The challenge is we try to see our lives through other people's eyes, and we want to do and be like they're doing, not knowing, oh goodness. One of the things about being a preacher and a pastor's son is that sometimes you get to hear the other side of what a person who looks all put together in church is going through. Because all you see is the ship, but you don't see what's happening with the passengers inside. Parents praying to have a child, waiting, trying everything. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, every day, upstairs, downstairs, everywhere, trying desperately to try have a child. Cheney Road, all of the different intravenous things. Nothing not working. And then finally, you have a child. And the child becomes your worst nightmare. Talking back, talking trash, and dissing. I heard a young lady talking to her mother, and the poor mom was crying and said, I don't know what else to do. I didn't expect this out of my child. Yeah. I just want you to understand that God knows. So don't force the funk. Ooh, it dropped in my spirit, and I'm gonna say it. There are people, wives and husbands, that are trying to go outside of the marriage because you've been trying to have a child and you can't, nothing seems to be happening, and you think your clock is, shorting out. So you're trying to go get pregnant outside or have a child outside simply because you want to call yourself a parent. I'm going to tell you this. Maybe you can get it. My dad was born when his mother was 54 years old, and he lived to be 93 years old, was married to my mom for almost 64 or so years. What are the odds? 1 to 1. There are two of you becoming one, and in that oneness, God is with you. I promise you, my brother, my sister, that God knows what is best for your life. And when you think that all is lost, just remember that God is standing by. You see, the stairwell is where the unseen foundation of your next life is laid. In that waiting period, you're laying the foundations for what's coming next. I saw a pilot, Mr. Anderson, flies with, I think it's American Airlines. He's Jamaican. And he talked about he worked in different positions, including Circuit City that doesn't exist anymore. And he brought this other friend, another Jamaican, with him. And he went as far as trying to study medicine. But that was not his calling. And the funny thing about it, he knew it wasn't his calling. But quite often we're trying to appease, whether it be parents or guidance counselors. And so we missed the mark. What if Usain Bolt had decided, you know what, instead of running, I'm gonna become a doctor? I think it's Shane Battier, one of those guys, I don't remember. I've always been a Duke fan, but one of them, there were two of them that were studying medicine. But basketball was their gifting. They did that for, I think of my son. Oh, Jesus. You know, I'm gonna brag. My goal was with that little fella was, he was good at sports, so I'm doing everything and I'm saying, okay, and different teams trying to get him, and I'm doing everything. One day the boy told me, Dad, I'm going to the military. Was I mad? Of course I was, because I planned out everything how I wanted to see him go. And I remember at the time I was studying, went to one of my professors and I said, Dr. Mack, Stephen said he's going into the military. And she said to me, son, didn't you tell me that you were training Stephen to be independent? I said, yes. So why taking away his independence now? I said, oh God, you know, why you have to do that? Fellow went to the military, got out of the military, was able to use military to go to school, was able to use the military to go to work, get a beautiful wife, 2 grandchildren, a boy and a girl. I'm happy. You know, as parents, we say train the child up in the way they should go or grow. You see the difference? Because the challenge is when we try to make them do exactly like we want to do, not realizing our goal should be establishing principles in them so they can grow. And when they have these principles, it's foundational, then they can be people of substance. But when you try to force a person, would it be, consider this. Mary and Michael have been met in college. Mary was incredibly intelligent, smartest girl in high school, head girl and everything. Michael is equally smart. But they grew up in a church culture where the man head of the house, and so she took back and said, well, you know, I'm going to have children and simply allow Michael to lead. And so they did that for 25 years, and then at 25 years, the house was empty, and it's just Mary and Michael that's left in the house. And they're doing well. But Mary, all of a sudden, she started remembering how good she was, and she hadn't lost her intelligence. So she said to Michael, you know what? I feel like going back to school, not just for the money, but it's to build the oak tree of her life. And Michael is fussing and saying, why would you want to do that now? We've done this, we planned this. Yeah, but the kids are out of the house now. So allow me to be me. And it started having friction in the relationship. You say, what should we do? Should Mary just sit at home and quiet herself when within her God has given her gifting? Or should she go try to do something with her life? Think about it. PowerPoint. Number one, waiting is not wasted when God has commanded the pause. I want you to hear that. Waiting is not wasted when God has commanded the pause. If you look and line things up with the word and seeing that you're not just lazy, but you're waiting, and in your waiting, you're preparing. As the song said, Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I be a living sacrifice. You're waiting. I can imagine Abraham as he went up with Isaac. He's accustomed to sacrificing, and here's God saying, give me the thing you've been waiting all this time for. And I've said before, I can't imagine that conversation with Abraham and Sarah. Any one of you who think that Sarah just said, okay, take him, but kill him. You don't know women. Oh my goodness. I can imagine. Oh, it's not in the Bible, but just imagine. Sarah, Abraham told Sarah, then Sarah told all of her girlfriends around the village. And you're going to say they are Hebrew women, so they just said, okay, go. It's in the back book. There was one of them, I think it was Solomon, or I don't remember which king it was, that one wanted to, had a child, and one of the child died, and there was another purpose where they were saying, one of the wives just said, women said, okay, kill the baby. And the king said, okay, we're going to give the other one to the baby, because a true mother would not want her child to be killed. So I just can imagine the story with Abraham and Sarah and what he had to go through, and especially if you lived on top of a hill like I did, and you're walking down in the valley and you're trying to get to, the other side of the mountain. We had a valley and up another mountain. And you get up, you're trying to get there, and they're like, are you sure? And they all cry, Sarah, look how long you waited. You waited all this time. People was calling all sorts of names and say, you can't have children. And Abraham, they were saying you're shooting blanks and all that stuff. And now you want to give up the one child that you have. That doesn't make sense. But it was the right thing to do. And even as he went up on the mountain, was saying, hey, don't do it. There's a ram caught in the thicket. You will have and face mountains in your lives. But in order to get to the prize, in order to get to the ram, you have to climb the mountain of stress, the mountain of hate, the mountain of division, the mountain of being called names, the mountains of loss. You climb those mountains. But when you get to the top of the mountain, there's a ram caught in the thicket, ready to be sacrificed for you in order for you to achieve what you need to. Point number 2. The upper room is a chamber of preparation before manifestation. I would have loved to have been just a fly in the room. I remember, especially when my mom passed, and waiting. Or even before she passed, and the doctors would say, y'all need to come now because we think she's going. And we run to the hospital, and then we see mom sitting up eating. Confused the doctor for about 3-4 weeks or so. Over and over, we were getting messages. She's about to transpire. The waiting was, especially during the time it was COVID, so we couldn't go all in the hospital at once. So some of us were in the parking lot, some of us were on Zoom, but we waited. And then my mom went on to be with the Lord. I don't know how someone could go and move from here to eternity. I don't understand how that works. And the thing is, I am at a point where I don't try to understand anymore. And this is a song which says many things about tomorrow. I don't seek, I'm changing the word, to understand. But I know who holds my tomorrows. And I know he holds my hand. Because you see, the truth is, the only day we have is today. And so we enjoy the day. And there's another day. We also enjoy that day. PowerPoint number 3. PowerPoint number 3. Unity, prayer, and obedience are the architecture of power. Affirmation. I do not despise the stairwell. I honor the space between floors. I wait in unity and I wait in obedience. What is being prepared in secret will be revealed in power. The master builder is forming me for the next level. One accord is not just spiritual language, it is architectural language. The stones must agree with each other before the house can stand. The disciples had to come together in prayer before the Spirit came upon them in power. And that is still true for us. If we cannot wait together, we cannot carry the glory together. If we cannot wait together, we cannot carry the glory together. If we cannot pray together, we cannot build together. And if we cannot remain in the stairwell, we are not yet ready for the next floor. So I bless the stairwell in your life. I bless the stairwell in your life. I bless the waiting room. I bless the silence before the shout. I bless the hidden preparation, because the builder who told you to wait is the same builder who knows exactly when to open the door. The stairwell is not your ending. It is your passage. And what comes next will come in power.